I'll tell you the question. So I asked them to look at the title of the song, listen to the lyrics, and hear what it's saying about immigration.
Last night as I lay all sleeping, a wonderful dream came to me. I saw Uncle Sammy weeping for his children from over the sea. They had come to him friendless and starving, when from tyrant oppression they fled. But now they abuse and revile him, till at last in just anger he said, if you don't like your Uncle Sammy, then go back to your home overseas, to the land from where you came, whatever be its name, but don't be ungrateful to me.
All right, I'm going to stop right there. So, the kids have to listen to it a couple times, but what it's pretty much, is, they were painted this picture and come to America, it's, and then they get here and they complain, and you know about the tenements in New York and things like that. The times were really harsh, and, America's message to the immigrants who had come here was, if you don't like it, go back where you came from. But anyway, the children needed, they had to listen to it a couple times to understand parts of it, but, this is what immigrants came to, yeah, they did leave their land, but they tried to come make good, but then, because of some of the people that were already here, they were unwelcoming of them, and then it brought up the whole thing about, discrimination and prejudices, and that brought us to our reading series, which for this week was about segregation. So, they were making the connections very well. So I just think this is really neat. I also thought it was really neat if we didn't do this, but I put it in an extension. If you take this song and try to let them find a song from today that is political in its nature. The only song that I could think of, which I don't know if I'd let them listen to, but you think of 9/11 and all the songs that sparked after it, and how political viewpoints can be represented through artists' songs. This is all in LSC too. Okay, so the rest, day 2 I had finished part of day 1 because we went on tangents a lot. And then the big part of this was I wanted them to see the oral histories. What I did is I put the 2 oral histories that I let them use. But then on another slide I have a whole bunch of oral histories that you can use. I wanted to make sure what they were reading. You have to filter some of this stuff at different levels and things like that. So the 2 I have are here, and I'm not going to read all this, but one is about a 13-year-old girl from Italy, and I specifically found the part where it talks about her coming to Ellis Island, because I wanted to focus on those conditions at Ellis Island. And it just talked about how she felt. We were poor. They got letters from her father, and it talks about how her father was, in a different place, and they were waiting to get through. And it says, we were much afraid when the inspector looked at the baby's eyes. What if the baby would have to go back? The mother would have to go with her, and what would become of us all? Which is tying into how we talked about how families were split apart. So they read her oral history. I'm not going to read the whole thing. And the other oral history is from an older lady, and it sounds like it's a very long oral history that you can read through, but it sounds like she was an upper class, woman who came through on immigration. And her story is a lot different. They stayed on Ellis Island for a couple of years, but at that time there were raise your hand if you've been there to Ellis Island. Has anyone been there? No, I'm not a history buff, but I still to this day think it was one of the most amazing places. But actually on one side of the island where you can't even go anymore are buildings, and they used to have these people, they used to live there until they got cleared. I'm not very in depth into that, but that's what what I learned from there, that they did stay there. So they talk about how she got to stay there, but her conditions staying there were a lot different than this 13-year-old who obviously they were not as rich as this woman. So anyway, they read both of the oral histories, and I wanted them to compare and contrast them. The stories have lots of similarities. How they go through Ellis Island. Their families are at one point separated. That they're checked, they're marked on their clothing. And then there's differences because one, first of all, was a 13-year-old girl. Another one she was older at the time when she came through. One is poor, one is rich. So they can do that. And these are all the other oral histories that you can go through. My evaluation was to observe their, I forgot to say, say, they all had, I had the computer lab, mobile lab that day. So they all had computers right in front of them that they could explore all these primary sources. So I was going to observe them exploring the sources. They have to do the discussion questions as a class, and then I was going to assess their compare and contrast. And the extensions are, you can research how immigration works today compared to then. It's a lot different. Write a story if you were an immigrant and go from the time you were on the ship to arriving at Ellis Island to acclimating to the new city, and write a timeline of immigration. In the future, I think this lesson wouldn't have worked as effectively if they didn't each have a computer in front of them. You know, a lot of us have that computer. I don't have a smart board, unfortunately, or a Promethean board, but I just have the projector screen. I just don't think they would have been as engaged in it without it having right in front of them. I probably would have cut out the PBS website, and I probably would have printed out the oral histories because it was too much clicking back and forth to the two because they wanted to compare and contrast. So I probably would have printed them out that way they could have seen them together. They liked it. They thought it was interesting. I heard cool, neat. I like this. When it was time was up, I even had a student want the website. They could go home and look at it with their parents. I even put another trade book. This is a whole list from Scholastic of immigrant trade books and excerpts from actual immigrant children. And the last thing is that, you know, as I knew I wanted them to read oral histories. I find that very fascinating because it's in there. It's a great primary source since it's in the person who experienced it. I found it very hard to find that. Even on the LOC website, it's interviews with immigrants, but it's written in the interviewer's words, not the immigrants' words. So those are the ones that I have are pretty much all, I mean, I'm pretty good at Google, that's all I could find. But it kind of made me think, like, I think that'd be really neat to, I mean, I don't really know many immigrants, and it's, you know, most of them probably are still not really, you know, if you're going back to the early 1800s, they're not with us anymore. But, or know people that have, you know, their true stories of their immigration, but I thought, you know, this would be really cool for, I know years from now, people are going to be looking up, you know, the hurricane. I mean, you know, we don't care to end it, but, you know, I wonder if we truly had just, you know, this one lady, this is all her words, this is what she said about her trip. And it's like, are we going to have that, or are we going to have nothing but interviewers' words? I don't know, probably going on another tangent, but, you know, like, it's, when we're talking about primary sources, we want them to see their words, but nowadays a lot of stuff that we get is secondary because it's interviews. You know, it's the newspaper articles, and unless they were there, but most of the time we just interview them. So I think that'd be a cool
So are you
project.
having them write like
I think
what
they're
happened
right.
to them during the hurricane? Because a lot of people became immigrants after the hurricane.
Well, next week our stories on interviewing. It's just like interviews. So I might have them interview and get oral histories, and we'll make our own little thing. But I just think that'd be neat. 50 years from now.